All right, welcome back to the channel. Terence Crawford rejects Errol Spence's 60-40 offer in a very insulting way. And I have to believe that Spence's race has got to have something to do with Terence Bud Crawford's statements and stances. That might come as a shock to you, but I'm telling you that's what I think because that's the only reasonable explanation. And I now know why Gary Russell Jr. punched Terence Crawford in the face. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. So, Errol Spence Jr. says that he is willing to fight Terence Crawford for 60-40 is what he's always said. Or when he was being insulting, said, or 70-30 if that's what we give you. When Errol Spence Jr. said that, he sounded highly irritated. And I think that I know why. And although many people think that I am firmly in the camp of Errol Spence Jr. because I believe that Errol Spence Jr. is a great fighter and I think that he'll win the fight, the reason why I am saying this is because I have been in the business for a long time. I've negotiated a lot of deals. And in my honest opinion, Terence Crawford is he's doing one of two things, man. He is either having a bad faith negotiation where he does not intend for this fight to happen at all, or he is trying to hold Errol Spence Jr. to a standard that he would never hold to anybody else in the same situation as Errol Spence. And when that happens, you have to wonder why it is. Now, let me tell you why I think it is, and then I'm going to go through why I think this is the case. My father told me something, and I repeat this all the time. It always makes sense. It almost always comes out to be true. That there are two types of people that do not think black people can do anything. Now, my dad would say do anything. What I would say is there's two types of people that think black people are incompetent. Black people and white people. That's what my dad said. You have the people that think black people can't do anything because, oh, look at the black people. They don't deserve what everybody else deserves because, hey, they're irresponsible. They're this, whatever. You get the deal. And then there are black people that say, I'm different than all these other black people. And though all these other black people that's right. They are all the things that you're saying they are, but I'm different. There's that type of situation, right? So when you're trying to deal with, I'm going to come to this Terence Crawford thing because you see this in negotiations. When I have a negotiation with somebody and they look me in their face, if I have my hood up, right? And they don't see me in a suit. They don't see me in a tie. They don't see me sitting in a boardroom. They may think that they can pull anything over on me because they will look at the color of my skin, look at me and say, there's no way this guy's a lawyer. Nah, there's no way this guy is, a Harvard educated negotiator. There's no way that this guy has done. There's no way. Right. And then they will go into the negotiation and I will be immediately irritated because there will be a bunch of stuff in there that these guys are trying to pull over that they had to have been trying to pull it over. Right. Because it's just blatantly patently foul stuff in there that you got to go through and clear out. And sometimes I get irritated because I'm like, if I look like F. Lee Bailey, would they still pull this on me? In those circumstances, they probably would. But you get my point. Now, but Fanon, why would you say this about Terence Crawford? That's British. I shouldn't be doing a British accent, but whatever. I can't do a Nebraska accent. So why do I say that? First things first, and I'm going to go through my notes on this one because I don't want to screw it up. Terence Crawford deserves the fight with Errol Spence. He does. First and foremost, that fight should happen without a doubt. Terence Crawford deserves a fight with Errol Spence. Errol Spence deserves a fight with Terence Crawford. That's a wrap. Anybody saying other than that, forget it. He deserves it. But what he deserves to get paid is another thing completely. So when Terence Crawford says, disrespectfully too, I'm telling you, if this was me, the way that I'm wired, that fight ain't happening. Like, it's not happening for anything less than 70-30. It's just not going to happen because you're not going to beat me out of the ring before I beat you in it. Okay? You're not going to walk off with more stuff than you deserved and you know you didn't deserve it after I whoop you and be like, hey, yeah, but I got all that money. No, you didn't. You got what you deserved. And you didn't get anything more than you deserved. I might have given you more than you deserved until you try to get cute and play me stupid. So let me bring this to Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford wants to fight Manny Pacquiao. He said that was his first choice, right? Manny Pacquiao. Let me ask you, most extreme of Terence Crawford fans, is he getting 50% from Manny Pacquiao? No. Is he going to ask for 50% from Manny Pacquiao? No. Do you know why? Because he knows Manny Pacquiao is not going to give it to him. And there's not a crowd of idiots running around that are going to tell Manny Pacquiao that Terence Crawford deserves it. So you know what he would take if Manny Pacquiao offered it to him? 60-40, and he would take it in a minute, and he would keep on pushing. Why won't he do that with Errol Spence Jr. when the scenario is the exact same? Errol Spence Jr. is a major pay-per-view star. He has sold back-to-back pay-per-view, successful pay-per-views. He has 60,000 person stadium in Dallas, Texas that I personally saw Terence Crawford walk into and look around and see everybody there. I know Terence Crawford knows how big that place is because I saw him there, and Terence Crawford ain't stupid. He knows how much money that place can bring in because I'm sure that he has enough money, if he can't do it for himself, to go hire an accountant to tell him what 60,000 times 200 is. Now, would he ask for 50% from Manny Pacquiao to fight Manny Pacquiao in Dallas Stadium? Do you think he's going to ask for 50%? No. So why would you ask Errol Spence when Errol Spence is the same thing Manny Pacquiao is? And the only argument that you may have about Manny Pacquiao is that previously he was a bigger star. But right now, as far as legitimate fights go that can happen, Errol Spence is dang near as big as it gets for Terence Crawford. And in fact, it is as big as it gets for Terence Crawford. And Errol knows it. So for you to come out and say, man, something must have happened in his car accident. He got some screws loose in his car accident. Man, I would tell you, bud, man, ain't nothing wrong with my car accident. My car accident shook my head clean. And I know this. I can go fight somebody else for the same money that I fight you, and you cannot do the same. So either you're going to admit that I am the 60 in this 60-40, or you go away. And I will be 60-40 with somebody else. You can crack your jokes. You can make fun of my car accident. You can do whatever you want, but you will be sitting on ESPN making $3.5 million waiting to get fed to Alexander Putin, your next opponent. So stop the faking. Stop the fronting. 50-50 is not fair to Errol Spence Jr. Because if Errol was Manny, you wouldn't be asking for it. If Errol was Canelo, Bud wouldn't be asking for it. Bud is only asking for 50-50 because Bud thinks that something is different about Errol Spence than it is about the other superstars in the pay-per-view area. Okay? Because ain't nobody else asking Errol Spence for 50-50. This name is not Manny Pacquiao and not Canelo Alvarez. And the idea that somebody that is a main event fighter on ESPN that cannot draw flies to a garbage can without Errol Spence got the nerve to make fun of this man's near-death experience and lowball him? Lowball him. Because guess what? If Terence says Here's my offer. My offer is 50-50. I fight you, I get 50, you get 50. That's an offer from Terence, right? That is a low ball offer. That's a low ball from Terence. Because Terence knows that Errol is worth more than that, because Errol's the pay-per-view star. Errol is where Terence says he wants to go. Okay? If Terence Crawford woke up 1 year from now and he had Errol, what Errol has now, he would be like, oh, what a great year. I have never done this before. And he would be right, because you've never done that before. But there's something special about Errol that makes you think that you can just talk him out of what he earned, and you can have it because you're Terence Crawford. And everybody is supposed to just stop and say, yeah, Errol, be stupid, be disrespected in negotiations, have your car accident insulted, and go ahead and fight the guy. Reward Terence Crawford for lowballing you and talking a lot of smack with a $30 million payday. No. I would be like, if that was my son, I'd be like, son, let him go find out how he's going to earn $30 million. And if he wants 50-50, cool. Go out and fight enough people and do enough things to get yourself to be a pay-per-view star. And when you're a pay-per-view star, and when you've got your own stadium in Texas, or a real stadium, not the Cornhuskers, but if you got your own stadium in New York City, then yeah, we can talk 50-50. Until then, dog, I can't deal with you. Okay? Can't deal with you because you're not negotiating with me in good faith. Well, no, maybe you're negotiating me in good faith, but you're trying a really corny negotiation tactic with somebody that doesn't negotiate like that. When you have to be careful with how you negotiate, because when you negotiate wrong with the wrong person, the person with all the leverage will walk out of the room on you and go find somebody else to work with that is not going to be a headache. And I'm telling you, that is Bud Crawford. I understand why Gary Russell Jr. punched that dude in the mouth. Because first of all, what he said about him not being right because of a car accident, dog, that was as tacky. That was as tacky as a drunk ain't shit. Okay? Because I don't remember Errol Spence Jr. ever calling you a straight out duck artist or disrespecting you in any real way other than to say, look, man, 70-30. But Bud took it somewhere else, and Bud is trying to act like Bud is the superstar. Bud is the great fighter. Errol's the great fighter. But financially speaking, what is fair is fair. Exploitative is something else. If Errol was serious about 70-30, I would say, okay, no. If he said he was walking away at 70-30, it's 70-30 or nothing else, I would say, Bud, okay, tell him no. Go get your money. Do what you got to do to put yourself in a situation when you get to that fight where you can be treated fairly. Because I don't think 70-30 is fair because of what Bud brings to Errol. Okay? Because Bud does bring something to Errol, but he does not bring equality to Errol. It's not the case. Just like Terence Crawford would bring something to Canelo, a name, if Canelo were to fight him. But he would never ask Canelo Alvarez for 50% or Manny Pacquiao. Ridiculous. And in fact, I don't even think he got 50% for Amir Khan. You tell me what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.